Hi, good morning everyone. Welcome to members of the media. Welcome to persons viewing to another in our post-cabinet press briefing series. This morning we'll have a presentation by the Honorable Favour Williams. The Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Education, Youth and Information. I'm Robert Nesta Morgan, Minister of State in the same ministry. We want to recognize Mrs. Maureen Dyer, Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. Here with us is Dr. Cassan Troop, Chief Education Officer, Acting in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. We also want to thank members of the GIS team as well as other support staff for being a part of this event. We will begin with a presentation by the Minister, and then after which we will have questions from members of the media. We do not expect to be long, so we will be very concise, and we'll expect to end by about 9:15. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another post-cabinet press briefing. Let me acknowledge our Minister of State, the Honorable Robert Nesta Morgan, our Permanent Secretary Acting, Mrs. Maureen Dwyer, our Chief Education Officer Acting, Dr. Cassan Troop, members of the media, members from the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, and let me say again to you, good morning. So we are going to begin with the major decisions from Cabinet. The first is an amendment to the first schedule of the National Solid Waste Management Act. Cabinet gave approval for the amendment to paragraph 5.2 of the first schedule of the National Solid Waste Act, National Solid Waste Management Act 2001 to provide for the members of the National Solid Waste Management Authority to be eligible for appointment to the authority for a maximum of 9 consecutive years. The Act previously made provision for an appointed member of the National Solid Waste Management Authority to hold office for a period not exceeding 3 years, and that every appointed member of the authority shall be eligible for reappointment, but no member should be appointed for more than 6 consecutive years. In an effort to be consistent with best practices and approaches for the nomination, selection, and appointment of board members by the government, a maximum of 9 consecutive years for members is recommended. Cabinet also gave approval for the issuing of drafting instructions to the Chief Parliamentary Council. The next decision is a national sourcing policy. Cabinet gave approval for the development of a national sourcing policy and the establishment of a policy steering committee to drive the policy's development. Foreign direct investment has played an important role in the economic development of Jamaica, but the impact varies across the sectors, and there's a need to improve the multiplier effect in terms of improved living standards and sustainable development. The national sourcing policy seeks to address this shortfall in the impact through the development of commercial partnerships and improved linkages between micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises and companies investing in Jamaica. The national sourcing policy would advance the creation of an enabling environment to strengthen and sustain the nation's economic growth and development through strategic and focused initiatives that encouraged and sensitized the use of local inputs in key domestic industries. The policy seeks to establish a Government of Jamaica policy position that supports the inclusion of sectors that could exponentially contribute to the wider economy. The next item is a ratification of amendments and additional provisions to the sale of lands at Harbour Head, Kingston, known as Kingston Dry Dock, and these lands were sold to Jamaica Fruit and Shipping Company Limited and or its nominee, German Ship Repair Jamaica Limited. Cabinet ratified the following amendments and additional provisions to the sale of 5.36 acres of land at Harbour Head in Kingston to the existing lessee, the Jamaica Fruit and Shipping Company Limited, and or its nominee, German Ship Repair Jamaica Limited, by the Commissioner of Lands, as approved by decision number 18/20 dated April 2020. A reduction in the area of land sold by the Commissioner of Lands to the German Ship Repair Jamaica Limited from 5.36 acres to 1.69 acres, given the removal of 0.19 acres or 9 meters of land, which was required by the Urban Development Corporation for a boardwalk. The reduction in the sale price of $171 million to $166,643,548.49. The German Ship Repair Jamaica Limited's full notice of the existence of a 0.19 acre reservation area intended to be used for recreation as a boardwalk and which did not form part of the lands being sold by the vendor to the German Ship Repair Jamaica Limited, a right of first refusal to be provided by the German Ship Repair Jamaica Limited to acquire the 0.19 acres of land required for the boardwalk area should the vendor wish to sell, transfer, or otherwise dispose of same, and to have the continued access to and from the property from the Sir Flores L. Glassbowl Boulevard in the customary manner. Cabinet also gave approval for the Commissioner of Lands paying over $4 million from the sales proceeds to the Development Bank of Jamaica for the engagement of a technical consultant to monitor the development of the Phase 1 works, which would be the construction of dock, buildings, and pier by the German Ship Repair Jamaica Limited Company. Our next item is the World Free Zones Organization agreement to host the 8th Annual International Conference and Exhibition during the period June 7 to 10, 2022. Cabinet gave approval for the execution of the World Free Zones Organization agreement between the World Free Zones Organization and the Jamaica Special Economic Zone Authority in order for the Jamaica Special Economic Zone Authority to host the 8th Annual International Conference and Exhibition from the 7th to the 10th of June 2022 in Montego Bay. The annual international conference and exhibition will be a 5-day event consisting of a board of directors meeting, general assembly, workshops, and training. It is within the mandate of the Jamaica Special Economic Zone Authority to host the annual international conference and exhibition, and the expected positive economic effects from the hosting of the event includes increased investment and tourism interest for Jamaica. All the required safety protocols, as outlined by the Ministry of Health and Wellness, will be implemented to ensure the safety of all participants. The next item is the sale of land located at Barham Estate and Friendship Estate, Westmoreland, by the Sugar Company of Jamaica Holdings Limited. Cabinet gave approval for the sale of 350 acres of land, part of Barham Estates and Friendship Estate, in the parish of Westmoreland, to Bamboo Bioproducts Limited for the construction of a bamboo pulp mill at a sale price of $130 million. The next item speaks to the amendments to the Special Economic Zones Act to comply with Jamaica's international obligations to implement Action 5 of the BEPS minimum standards and other matters. Cabinet gave approval for amendment to the Special Economic Zones Act and regulations to explicitly insert the general substance requirement with respect to core income generating activities for geographically mobile activities that operate or may operate in a special economic zone. This was done in order to comply with international minimum standards for countering harmful tax practices as exposed by the Forum on Harmful Tax Practices of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Cabinet also gave approval for amendments to the first schedule of the Special Economic Zones Act and the Income Tax Act to correct errors which would clarify the operation of the tax incentives in the Special Economic Zone regime and their application to developers and occupants under the Special Economic Zones Act, as well as approval for the issuance of drafting instructions to the Chief Parliamentary Council. We have also the proposed establishment of a National Child Online Protection Committee and the National Child Online Protection Strategy. Cabinet gave approval for the establishment of a National Child Online Protection Committee as per the proposed terms of reference. The COVID-19 pandemic has served to underscore the importance of online learning as a key component of the delivery of educational services in Jamaica. Notwithstanding the tremendous benefits of technology and the use of ICT, online platforms present significant challenges to the safety of children in the virtual environment. Given the vicissitudes and hazards of the virtual space, therefore, it has become critical for children to access the tools which would guarantee their safety as they thrive in this digital age. Cabinet also gave approval for the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information to name a chair for the National Child Online Protection Committee and for the committee's mandate in relation to the development of a National Child Online Protection Strategy. We move on now to reports. Cabinet received and approved the following annual reports and/or financial statements to be tabled in Parliament. Annual report for the Hazardous Substances Regulatory Authority 2018-2019 financial year. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Independence Park Limited for the financial year 2018-2019. Annual report of the Early Childhood Commission for the financial year 2019-2020. Annual report and audited financial statements for the Ocherias Commercial Center Limited for the 2015-2016 financial year. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Sugar Company of Jamaica Holdings Limited for the year ending 31st March 2013. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Sugar Company of Jamaica Holdings Limited for the year ending March 31st, 2014. Annual report of the Statistical Institute of Jamaica for the years ending March 31, 2015 and March 31, 2016. Additionally, there were some additional reports for the Statistical Institute of Jamaica for the financial year ending March 31, 2017, 2018, and 2019. Annual report for the Financial Sector Adjustment Company Limited, FinSAC, for the financial year ending March 31, 2020. Annual report and audited financial statements for the Banana Board for the year ended 31st December 2019. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, for the year ended 31st March 2019. Annual report of the National Council on Education, 2017-2018. Annual report of the Broadcasting Commission, 2020-2021. Annual report of the Students' Loan Bureau, SLB, for the year ended March 31, 2018. And our final segment on the contracts. Cabinet gave approval for the award of a contract for the procurement of 3 pallet X-ray screening systems for the Kingston Logistics Center, Seaboard, and Port Handlers warehouses in the amount of US $1,599,500, including GCT, and this contract was awarded to Sectus Technologies Incorporated. Cabinet gave approval for the award of a contract for the provision of security services at the Maypen Hospital and Maypen Health Center for a period of 3 years in the amount of $148,028,167.44, inclusive of GCT of 15%, and that contract was awarded to Shark Electronic Security Limited. Cabinet also gave approval for the award of a contract for for the procurement of reagents and consumables with the provision of 3 immunology analyzers for the 3 years at the National Public Health Laboratory in the amount of US $1,004,296.38, inclusive of GCT, and that contract was awarded to Facey Commodity Limited. Cabinet also gave approval for the award of a contract for works to install pipelines and the rehabilitation of roadway and drainage in the Essex Valley project area in the amount of US $11,965,859.59, exclusive of GCT or any other related taxes, and this contract went to M&M Jamaica Limited, subject to the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries undertaking consultations with the respective municipal corporations in relation to the subject works in the Essex Valley project area. Cabinet gave approval for the award of a contract for the supply of pipes, fittings, and other items for the Essex Valley project area in the amount of US $3,159,341.50, exclusive of GCT or any other related taxes, and that contract went to Industrial and Technical Supplies Limited. Cabinet gave approval for the award of a contract for the modification of spaces at the Constant Spring, Monaliganny, and Halfway Tree post offices in the amount of $99,276,458.91. And that contract went to Nubian One Construction Limited. Cabinet also gave approval for the award of a second variation to a contract awarded by the Jamaica Social Investment Fund to undertake rehabilitative works under the Canaan Heights Integrated Infrastructure Project in Clarendon in the amount of $10,812,433.22, and that contract went to Alcar Construction Limited. Cabinet also gave approval for the award of contracts by the National Water Commission for the provision of security services at the offices and facilities of the Commission for a period of 3 years as follows. Vanguard Security Limited in the amount of $257,713,898.12 plus GCT for lot number 1, Kingston and St. Andrew. Guardian Limited in the amount of $617,783,340 plus GCT, broken down as follows. Lot number 2, St. Mary, Portland, St. Thomas, and parts of Kingston and St. Andrew in the amount of $195,874,500 plus GCT. Lot number 3, Clarendon, St. Anne, and St. Catherine in the amount of $231,486,000 plus GCT. And lot number 4 in St. James, Trelawney, Hanover, Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, and Manchester in the amount of $190,422,840 plus GCT. Cabinet also gave approval for a cumulative variation to an existing contract between the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service and King Alarm Services Limited for the provision of security guard services at the Hero Circle and Shalimar Avenue complexes in the amount of $42,816,087. Cabinet also gave approval for the award of a contract for the provision of security guard services for the Jamaica Customs Agency at the Norman Manley International Airport for a period of 3 years in the amount of $67,298,611.80, including GCT, and this contract went to Guardsman Limited. Cabinet gave approval for the award of a contract for the provision of plant maintenance services for a period of 1 year in the amount of $72,343,234.33 by Petrojam Limited, and that contract went to Quality Plus Contracting Company Limited. That ends our cabinet decisions, reports, and contracts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. We will now open the floor for questions from members of the media. You can indicate you wish to ask a question by using the raised hand feature.
Morning.
Please hold for me a second. Hi, Ms. Whittock. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Morning, Kimon Francis from the Gleaner. 3 questions. Minister, the Jamaica College Board has presented 3 options to the Education Ministry as it relates to former Education Minister Roy Reid. What decision has the ministry taken in light of this? That's 1. 2, in light of the AAG and NMIA boards being dissolved amid a breach of the law and with respect to a conflict of interest, doesn't this sort of set a template for how these matters should be dealt with? Members of the current board of the NPL were also a part of the previous board, which the Auditor General report said presided over a questionable procurement. Can you respond to this? And also, has the ministry taken into account that some schools' inability to accommodate all students leaving 5th form? And this is in light of the new policy for 6th form students.
Thank you for those questions, Kimon. Your first one, with regards to a letter that JC announced that it sent to the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. All matters with regards to JC are still being deliberated on, and at this moment, there are no decisions that we would like to make any announcement on. With regards to your second question, as to NPL, the current board that is in place, yes, consists of new members and existing some carryover members from the last board. You will recall that the Auditor General's report came out within the last month, the last 2 months, and those carryover board members were nominated, last year, late last year, early into this year. So it was before the Auditor General's report. Having said that, though, I've asked the board to go through the report and come back to me. They've promised a report by next week, and at that time, I will know what decisions should be taken. With regards to the third question about schools that cannot accommodate some of our 6th form students, we are working currently with all of our schools to understand to get the estimate from them as to the number of students who would be registered. We are working in collaboration as well with many of our community colleges and other institutions to facilitate our students who register for the 6th form program. As we have announced, there are many pathways that we have announced for students in order for them to get additional upgrades in their skill set and training. We are working in earnest, and I'm going to ask Dr. Troop just to drill down a little bit in terms of the details so far and the conversations that we've been having with our school leaders.
Good morning, Minister, State Minister. Good morning to members of the media. Just to follow on from what Minister said, we are conscious of the limitations within our current high schools, and that is why since 2019 we have been dialoguing. We have conducted our space audits within our high schools, and we also extended that to our tertiary institutions, and that is why we were able to come up with the idea of the off-site opportunities for our boys and girls. So we do understand the concerns of some of our principals at this time, but I use this opportunity to assure them that we are working along with you to ensure that you can address your limitations, and to make sure at the end of the day, all our students are given the opportunity to improve in their certification. This is the ultimate end and desire of this initiative. We know some persons are concerned about some implementation activities, but we are committed. The team is working with our principals right now. I can assure you that conversations are taking place. We have asked our principals to identify a teacher who we will compensate as a senior teacher who will have the hand-holding of these activities. We have asked our tertiary institutions to identify what we call a program officer who we will be working with to ensure that the partnership is taking place. When we talk about the accounting for the students across the different institutions, it's not a literal walking over to institutions from time to time. We are in the electronic space, we have databases. It's really to account for their attendance and for their performance reports. And once we have that information composed and shared, then we know what is happening to our students and we are assured of their progress towards certification. So we are working with our schools at this time. We have the year ahead of us to work through some of their challenges. We're going to be speaking to them individually to look at their program offerings and to plan, to do a growth plan with them to see how we can expand their offerings so it can be relevant to the 21st century demands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Troop. I think we have another question from a Miss Sarah Burton.
Hi, this message is for either the minister. Good morning, everybody. This message is for either the minister or for the acting CEO. And then I have some other questions that are specific to the minister. Okay, so in an article yesterday in the Gleaner, acting CEO, you made acknowledgement of sorts that not much consultation occurred with parents on the whole transitioning to a 7-year program at the high school level, no more fifth form graduation. When the mandatory vaccination policy, which is essentially what it was, requiring high school students to, most of them, to get vaccinated before face-to-face can begin again, there was an outcry as well from some parents who said that not enough consultation took place before that policy was put in place. These are two major initiatives now where parents are complaining that they are being told to get in line. And I think CEO or acting CEO Troop, yesterday you had mentioned that you're hoping parents come on board. What is the role that this government sees for parents, since these two initiatives don't seem to be sitting well with how they were implemented without enough consultation from parents? So what is the message to parents and their involvement in their children's lives and their schooling that the government would like to convey with these two actions? That's question one. Should I just wait for that and then go into the other questions, which are different?
I think you should allow us to.
Yes, okay.
Thank you, Ms. Burton. I think there's a misconception as it relates to the work that we do here at the ministry and as it relates to consultation. Simply because somebody asserts something doesn't mean it is fact. Over the last year that we've been in the ministry, we've had hundreds of consultative meetings, and we have the records on Zoom where we've consulted with the Jamaica Teachers Association, the Principals Association, the Principals and Vice Principals Association, members of the education sector as part of our e-COVID task force to manage the COVID opening of schools, For this pathway program, we have consulted with principals. We have consulted with the National Parent Teachers Association. They have also been a part of discussions as well, CEO. So this assertion that we're not consulting with parents is patently false because the evidence does not support it.
But this is not me saying this. This is Ms. Kisan Troop saying this, that not, she acknowledged in the article that not enough or not a lot of consultation
Dr.
with
Troop,
parents.
can you respond specifically to that assertion, please? Because I do not recall that.
Well, yeah, please.
Okay, Ms. Burton, so my comment was in response to a question about directly meeting with parents. So I did, in fact, indicate that we at the central ministry would not interact directly with parents at this time. We work through our schools in having conversations with our parents. When we meet with our boards and we have discussions, on that board is a parent rep who carries the voice of the parents. That's a structure of the ministry. When we have discussions with our principals operationally convene their teachers' meetings or their parent teachers' meetings. And if it is that they need us in terms of a technical support of that meeting, we participate. We have a community relations education officer who also works with our school to treat with conversation with parents if it is that they need the technical support. So we have that structure and we rely on that. So once the central ministry is requested to be present at any interface designed or convened at a school level, we do participate. But we work through our principals for those kind of conversations. And our central ministry in our broader consultations would have had the representatives from the different groups that we serve being a part of the conversation. Minister alluded to the e-COVID and the vaccine. For every decision we have taken concerning the vaccine, the NPTAJ and the other bodies have been represented on the committee. They pose their questions, they carry the concerns of the bodies, and they go back with our feedback, and they come back with their recommendations. And so we have had those conversations with them through indirect representation. So it's not a direct meeting that we convened with parents, and that is the intention of the response that I gave.
Thank you very much, Dr. Troop. I think that there needs to, and I think what the ministry probably needs to do is, I think, and I thank Ms. Burton for the question because it opens up the opportunity for us to create a greater understanding within the society about the structure of the education system. The Ministry of Education sits at the top. Below it are 7 regions. The regions control and influence education officers who are in charge of schools. We also have various organizations that are associated with the system, such as the Jamaica Teachers Association, Vice Principals and Principals Association. We have 2 of them, plus the National Parent Teachers Association. These organizations consult with us on a regular basis. So we have been very open and very transparent in our relationships with these entities. And before we make any major decision, Minister always convenes these consultative engagements where suggestions are made. And even a principal yesterday admitted on Nationwide Radio that he made suggestions regarding the Pathways program, and he saw that the suggestions were accepted. So I just think that, Ms. Burton, what we need to do, and I think the ministry has a responsibility now, to create a greater understanding. When we are doing decisions, we send out our bulletins, not just to principals, but to teachers, to parents, to youth leaders within the society. And we also post it on our website. So if you go on educate.gov.jm, you'd see a proper detailed outline of the Pathways program, because we're trying to inform people and make them understand what is it that we're doing while at the same time consulting with them. I think you had another question, Ms. Burton, before we go to Ms. Gordon.
Okay, this one is definitely for the minister. Last time I was here, I asked you about an access to information request that was created as a result of a question that I made to you several months ago. You said that you would check into it. This is in regard to the funds from the takeover of Petrojam and the money that is to be paid to the Venezuelan government. I wanted to know the status of those checks that you had made. Also, the
Can you allow Minister to answer first before you move on to your next question?
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Burton, I recall that at our last post-cabinet press briefing, we came back with some questions that were asked at the prior one. Sorry, and that was one of the questions that we answered. In terms of the ownership, we came back to confirm that we had spoken with the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, that confirmed that the government of Jamaica owns 100% of Petrojam, and we also came back with the answer to the question about the funds that are in escrow, to say that the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service would not wish to disclose at this moment the amount of funds that are in that escrow account, because as you know, this is for, there's still ongoing discussion and so on. This is a commercial activity that they would not want to disclose the nature of the quantum of those funds at this time.
You had another question, Ms. Burton, and we do need to go to Ms. Gordon. So I think we can allow you one more question.
Yes, this is regarding, again, Minister, annual reports. You mentioned several that were received today. I wanted to ask in just general terms, when an entity submits annual reports to the cabinet, or what's the procedure in order to get a copy of one of those annual reports? Because I recently asked for one particular annual report and I was told that it hasn't been, something to this effect, and so I'm just asking about process here. Something to the effect that they cannot release the annual reports because it's been sent to the Office of the Prime Minister, and the Office of the Prime Minister hasn't yet tabled it or put it to the Parliament, so I cannot get several of these reports, and these were spanning several years before now. So I wanted to understand, like, when is the cabinet, or what's the process of releasing those reports to the Parliament so that we can actually get access to it as journalists?
The process of annual reports is that when the annual reports are finished, they're submitted to Cabinet. After Cabinet reviews the reports, then they're submitted to Parliament. That is the process. A report will not be revealed to the public until it is finished. What I do know is that there are several entities who are late in their reports, and that is a fact that is known to everyone. And in many cases, they are now in the process of becoming current. We've had a lot of success in that regard. Places like the NSWMA and others have really worked hard over the years to become current with their reports, but there are some other entities that are working to become current. So I'm not sure the mischief in the situation, because the process is pretty straightforward. Annual reports are not private documents. Once they're completed and sent to Cabinet and tabled in Parliament, they're available publicly for everyone to see. Ms. Gordon? Ms. Gordon, I think you had a question.
Good morning, thank you. I wanted to ask the Minister or Dr. Troop, with respect to the third-party tertiary institutions, do we have a list or a map of these institutions within each parish that each high school will liaise with to feed the extra sixth formers that they cannot absorb to? Considering that proximity is also a factor as outlined by the by the sixth form pathways program, just so that parents can begin to plan from now and understand what will happen. So which institutions are near to which schools that the students will be fed to, so that parents can start to wrap their heads around what will happen at the end of the process if their child cannot attend the school.
Thank you very much, Tamika. The full list of the institutions are on the educate.gov.jm website. Also, the full list in relation to the regions has been shared with the institutions, the schools themselves. So the schools have a copy, and the public can get a copy on educate.gov.jm. Thank you, Tamika. Do we have another question? I suspect we don't. So I would like to thank members of the media as well as members of the management of this. We have another one? Oh, my apologies, Mr. Johnson.
Question?
Mr. Jovan Johnson, I understand you have a question. Mr. Johnson.
Hi, Minister Morgan. Thank you. Good morning.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Yes, I want to get a sense of what's the response of the Prime Minister to the situation at Heart Trust NSGA. In particular, the Gleaner on Sunday reported that in relation to the award of contracts involving the chairman and his company, Mr. Edward Gavidan, just for your note, that we reported that of the 196 contracts that were awarded to his company since 2006, 44% of the monetary value of those contracts have come since Mr. Gavidan has been chairman. And civil society voices and so on have raised concerns about the proximity issues and the award of contracts. And we also note the legal advice provided by Desiree Pearson from Hart in relation to the complaint by a procurement committee regarding the potential for conflicts of interest. And she noted that based on the definition of Hart, or based on Hart's definition of a conflict of interest, that the procedure requires a report to have been made to the board, and then some other process or so on ensue after that. So my question then is, how has the Prime Minister been handling this? And is the Prime Minister comforted or comfortable with this kind of proximity and the issues that are arising from it? That's one. And two, can you confirm whether the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency conducted any raid involving Hart's information technology facilities between Monday and Tuesday, including the seizure of electronic devices from senior officials?
So the first thing is, I cannot contemplate the Prime Minister's emotional state. What I can advise, though, is that there are questions were tabled regarding the said matter that you have raised, and we have had detailed discussions here at this post-cabinet press briefing on a previous occasion related to the exact question you raised regarding Mr. Gavidan. So I will not be in a position to answer those questions in detail, as they're just being raised and there are questions now in Parliament, which I suspect the Prime Minister will likely be answering within the time stipulated. Also, I know that Hart did issue a statement. No, not Hart. I understand that Hart is preparing to issue a statement on the matter, and I think that I should allow them to give that statement breath. As it relates to whether or not MOCA, I have no control or influence over what the police do or their knowledge of what they do. The police have a right to investigate where they find reason to investigate. I do not know if they are investigating or if there has been a raid. So I cannot respond to that question. Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. All right, thank you very much. Tamika has another question. Ms. Gordon?
Thank you. My other question pertains to the funding that the schools are contending or wondering if could be shared with them. That's $60,000. I'm asking the minister, why not give that amount to the schools to upgrade their own infrastructure and their own offerings instead of the $16,000 or $17,000 per student that will be given?
Mr. Yuan, okay.
Thank you for that question, Tamika. And I think the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information is at fault for not really quantifying in a better way the figures that are out there with regards to the grants that schools will be getting. So when you look at the full cost of the grant, it is well over 100,000, something 185, right, 185,000 in terms of the full funding to our secondary schools per capita. And that, when you consider the cost of the staff, when you consider the cost of electricity, internet connectivity, maintenance, and everything that the government already provides to our secondary school, when you include that, it is not just the 17 million that is incremental. The 17,000, sorry, is incremental to what the government already provides. And then that would put in perspective what the per capita grant would be to private institutions for implementation of the program. So I hope that clears it up, and I think it's our own communication that has gotten in the way of that.
Thank you, Minister. And I think you may have not mentioned the significant outlay of resources that we've spent over the last 12 months on infrastructure in schools. I think last year it was $1.6 billion, and we're planning to spend a similar amount this year again. You have not also mentioned, Minister, that we provide sanitation support for them. Whenever schools have challenges, they can reach out to the region, whether it is for landscaping, whether it is to create isolation units and so on. So the money that Minister announced for the sixth form pathway program is basically an additional sum to the significant, a top-up. The private schools we do not pay the teachers at the private schools, nor do we maintain their infrastructure, pay their internet, pay their water, pay their security. So it's a significant outlay. A majority of the budget of the Ministry of Education goes towards paying salaries and maintaining our schools and also providing for our students. So I think that persons will appreciate the significant amount that we are giving to our schools. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a wonderful post-cab. We had said we would end at 9:15. It's now 9:23, but we were very happy to take additional questions. I want to show appreciation to members of the media, members of the ministry's team, as well as the Jamaica Information Service, and persons out in the public who tuned in. Thank you very much, and until next time, have a safe day. Remember, sanitize, social distance, and always wear your mask. And take the vaccine as well.